This will be part 22, Matthew 9, and we're going to start at verse 2. And a paraplegic is going to have his sins forgiven, and he's going to call Matthew. Okay, everything looks good. This is where left off. Not really sure which city we're at, but I try to give a location of what's going on or where we're at. I do believe we're at Capernaum again. Okay. And here I don't like to keep the words of the and behold. And then they brought to him, they brought to him a paralytic and on a stretcher, not on a bed, lying on a bed. If he's on a stretcher, we know he's lying, and it's not really a bed that they're. It's probably where he slept as well, but when he's out in public, it's not a bed. Okay, it would be more like a stretcher, and Jesus here we don't have seeing here. Jesus seeing him, because the text doesn't reflect that as what he's going to say. Knowing his trust, not his faith, but his trust that he is who he is. And this is Jesus knowing, and it's not their trust or faith, because he's going to talk to the paralytic. Okay. So here it's going to be Jesus knowing his trust said to the paralytic, have courage, your sins are forgiven. Now, here you have to understand that what has happened before in the text, and that is where I explained Jesus' baptism when he arose from the water. Our Creator anointed him with his breath, and by his breath and his anointment allowed him to fulfill now what the priest did, because the laws for the priest, he needed to be anointed before they went in to work inside the courtyard and be able to offer up their offerings, and then go in and talk to our Creator and ask for that male's sin or one of his members' family, his family members' a sin. So this is Jesus now, first time using this next level that's our Creator has taken him. And remember, like I said, then when I was talking about this anointment was given extra, remember he just calmed the wind down, took him to another level of being able to have full authority. So it's for the people to make them talk about him and say things about Jesus. And really, these would have been spread through the land easily of the things he was doing. So here he's saying, have courage, your sins are forgiven. Now, this text here is going to talk about blasphemies. And what Jesus, well, here, let me, I guess, just get into this. In this verse here, remember, I'm going to get rid of the word behold, don't need that. Need to add that word our, because make it first person writing. They didn't say, they thought to themselves, okay? They didn't say to themselves. They didn't discuss between them. The scribes who are right in the text, well know that a blasphemy is to speak against our Creator, or to make your, to speak against our Creators. And this is the blasphemy that's being talked about here, that um, that Jesus has done blasphemy by doing only what our Creator can do. Now remember, John was doing the same thing as Jesus here until Jesus would baptize. Then that was the end of John's baptism, and there's no more such thing as baptism. But here, these guys were thinking, oh, this is blasphemy, okay? Not this fellow is blasphemous. So, and that's showing an added word at this time in the 1977 NSAB Bible. So that's how they show it as a italic word, and I just probably pull it out by highlighting it with a special color. So I recognize it when I'm going through these. And we have Jesus now replying, Jesus knowing their thoughts, he asked them, and this here, knowing their thoughts, is why I can say that I can use the word thought here. So it wasn't just something I was using by saying here. Other verses help us out to make sure that the right word is being used. Ask them, why are you thinking this is blasphemy? Not evil. It would be evilness. In fact, I wouldn't leave the word evilness. But the thing here is why are you thinking this is blasphemy? Now, it's also that they don't understand what's going on. Jesus is giving a teaching moment here of his next given, I can't say power. I guess it is pretty much his power to allow now people to enter into heaven by him forgiving. So I guess it would be by the power that our Creator has given him, and to forgive whoever he wants to forgive. This is why it's knowing their thoughts. Jesus knew up here, knowing his trust in Jesus. Went too far. Why are you thinking this is blasphemy? Okay. Some of our scribes thought to themselves, this is blasphemy. Jesus, knowing their thoughts, asked them, why are you thinking this is blasphemy? So not only was he given the power to forgive and to be over the wind, now he's knowing their thoughts, okay? There's so much that happens after Jesus is anointed by our Creator's breath. So, yeah, that's been done. That's been all discussed. I need to go on here before I waste too much time just repeating what I keep saying, because it is important for you to understand and know what each step of the way is going on, even though it's not truly in order here. But I just want to make sure I'm trying to, like I said, the more truth you're going to know and understand how I'm knowing it, it definitely should take your belief to a trust. Okay. That's what I'm hoping for in doing this before you. Let's see. Jesus is talking here. Which is easier for me to say? His sins are forgiven, or say, stand and walk home. So here's Jesus trying to teach that he has this power of through our Creator's words that our Creator's given to him to receive these power of being able to do these things. He's now trying to show them that if you're thinking of this one, and here is a person who is probably can't really move much of his arms or his legs. Okay, so this would be like a very severe illness or problem that he has, that to witness a healing by just commanding the words is what Jesus, by his commanding words, is what Jesus is putting the question to them. And before they answer, he says, not that in order that, let it be known. That's what Jesus is saying, let it be known. Not may be known, okay? Not may. This word never would have existed there. Jesus would have never said may know. To let you know I am your son for man. And here I'm using the word for in describing Jesus, because Jesus is son for man, or Jesus is a son from man, not of man. And here Jesus, for the first time, is teaching that the power that he's been given, and there's going to be other verses that it goes back to Abraham when our Creator told him that kings will be coming from you, and this will bless all the earth. This is what Jesus is saying, is now that he's for all man over earth. Now, this extra authority that he's been given changes his words, and they're so important in just understanding when the word of, or not the word of, but either from man or for man, meaning he was promised, he is the promised son, or now he is now for all man, okay? Let me see if I can bring that up, because it's very important to have this known, because it goes all the way back to Abraham here. And I want to make sure that this prophecy is down here, okay? But it starts out in Genesis 17:6, when our Creator is talking to Abraham, and he's telling them that nations, I will make nations from you, not of you, from you, and kings shall come forth from you. Okay, this is one promise he gives them. And this is all the kings for, when it says nations, that's meaning two. Okay, and one would have been Esau became Edom, and his sons became a nation, and many kings were under them, under that rule. And then from Jacob, another kingdom, and this, he was made his nation, our Creator's nation. He led his nation into the promised land. But what we have in 18, which would be the next chapter in Genesis, our Creator again is talking to him. In him, let's see, surely, I don't know who our Creator is talking to right now out of this verse, but since Abraham will surely be granted become great and a mighty nation, and in him, this is so confusing because I didn't correct the verses, but the object is that from Abraham, there's going to be a great and mighty nation, which is our Creator's nation. Okay, and in him, which would be Jacob's descendants, among him will be for all nations of the earth will be blessed. And this is what Jesus is teaching here at this time as well, okay? This is very hard to find when you ask people for the verse in the Hebrew text. Where does it say that there's a prophecy that Jesus is supposed to do this? Here it is right here before you. And then down in verse 20 or chapter 22, 18, then he reconfirms what he's saying here, and he's telling them, in your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed because you have obeyed my voice. Okay, so that's what Jesus is teaching here. Okay, that I am your son for man. Okay, so when you're reading these words, you now understand for man and from man. From is like what he's just got done talking, Abraham from his seed, okay, and through his sons all the way through. That's this promise that's going to happen. Who has his authority on earth to forgive sin. Now here, this is Jesus saying that, or when they highlighted this text. No, okay, they didn't. Pardon me. I needed to add the word who has his authority on earth, and these are going to be all capital letters like this, meaning they come from our Creator. I knew that the verse existed. That's why I have it large letters. So this could be noted later that this is a prophecy, and then I would show you some of the promises given not only to Abraham, but also to David, who has authority on earth to forgive sin. Stand and walk home is what he's going to do, his command. He doesn't need, then he said to him, we know who he's talking to, so that's just doubling up words. He says, stand and walk to your home. Not, you don't need to take up your bed, but the object is simplifying the text will say, let it be known to you, I am your son for man, who has his authority on earth to forgive sins. Stand and walk home. Very much comes out of when our Creator had anointed him to become priest. Here he's now teaching this power has been given to him. Although the words were saying authority, so power or authority. Yeah, authority. I like the word authority better. He was given his authority. Okay. He arose and went home. So then he stood and walked home, not went home. He did what Jesus said. He stood and walked up here, okay? Stand and walk. So to make sure that these words were reflected in this verse, now you see them there. Now, the word multitude was changed to a crowd because when this story is talking, there can only be so many people where this happened, because we know in other stories they let him down from the roof, okay? But that's a crowd. A multitude, Jesus needs to go up a little higher on a hill, on the side of the hill, and for everybody to see him, that this multitude is a large amount of people. So this is how I'm differentiating of the size by using the words multitudes, meaning always a multitude. And here, this would have been truly a crowd. Saw this. They were in awe and praised YV. Now, you cannot glorify or you cannot glorified YV. There's no way you can do that. It says glorified God. Man cannot do that, okay? So the words that are being used here, this person doesn't understand the terminology that of what the word gloried or glorified, or they use it so loosely that man is able to glorify God. It can't be. So they praised our Creator, or YV, for giving Jesus his authority. Okay? I think that's pretty much a quick understanding of why I'm changing the words and getting rid of words. And this is a lot of the verses here cleaned up and how it's going to read. I guess I can continue here. He passed on from there and he saw a man or a male called Matthew. And really, we can say that Jesus didn't pass on. As Jesus walked, he saw Matthew sitting at a tax office. It isn't an office where he's at, it's a booth. That means that along the road, probably at a major crossing area or where a lot of people would be traveling back and forth. And this was kind of supposed to be where these guys call you over and say, especially he would recognize a foreigner from another country saying, come over here, you got to pay a tax for being in this area, tax them wherever they're going. But it was part of the way they raised money for Rome. So here, Matthew was sitting in a booth, not an office, okay? And it would be much smaller and more open, and probably just something to shade him, have it announced what this booth is, and then he would be sitting there. And a lot of times there'd be more than one of these sitting in these booths. So he said to him, follow me, and he followed him. Don't need the word he got up from his chair, but the object is, was Jesus said to him, follow me, and he followed him. Now, Matthew, you have to understand, must have been hearing about the crowd, and as people are walking by this place, he's hearing more and more of, did you see Jesus do that? Did you hear this? Did you see that? This is, this type of thing. So Matthew, even though he's working for Israelis, for Rome, he's also an Israeli, a believer that Jesus is to come to Jerusalem or walk the land. He believes in the promise or the prophecy from our Creator. Now, and it happened that as all this here is not needed, as he reclined at his house. Now I had to add the word at his house, meaning Matthew's house. Okay. The text doesn't say that, as he reclined at the table in the house. So you have to understand, what is this? Where is this? So we have to place it as Matthew to say it's his house. Now, like I told you before, those that are more wealthy don't have just a regular home. They have a house where they could have servants. So taxmen were richer among the people. So that's why I left the word house here, because most likely he could afford the servants and even a larger area for many people to come over and visit. So just trying to differentiate the word home from house. Many tax gatherers and sinners came to dine with Jesus and his disciples, is the way I'm going to correct the text, because tax gatherers are just taxmen, okay? So there must have been an off hour or coming at the evening, and they knew that most of the time traveling people have now settled down where they're going to be, and not, what would I say, traveling about to be taxed. Because, example, this is now saying that there's many taxmen that were there by this city. And that's why I'm saying it was Capernaum is where this is at. And there would have been Remember, that's on the Jordan River that they got to get over, and they're coming from the one side, which I have named the region Jordan, is different than the side that's over here that has Capernaum. So there would be a lot more travelers, more foreigners, more different races. And you can see that they have Israelis were the taxmen because they knew who were probably locals and not locals. But here, when there's many of these taxmen that gather, there's no story telling us how they got there. But it does mean that Matthew would have been an important Israeli, and they would have maybe gathered to his house. Like I said, it's rather large. So maybe Matthew was the head taxman, okay? And this way they would meet up at his house and figure out the money and put where the money is for safety and then go out the next day. So Matthew here shows that, or this text is reflecting that Matthew is just not a common taxman, okay? And not dining, they dined or dined with Jesus and his disciples, because he has a few disciples at this time and added one more here. Then it had the word Pharisees, and I can't put the word judges. Now there's a description or video in the description that defines Pharisees and Sadducees. And we know Jesus said twice, two different times, that one, they like to sit in the seat of Moses, and they also like to sit at the front of the synagogue. So they have to be priests. I mean, not priests, but judges. So when the word judge can be put in and fulfill what's being said here, then it's kind of like we know that this is the more correct word than the word Pharisees. But I can't use the word Pharisees here. So why did I use the word priest? Let's take a look. They came, not that they saw, they came and they seen him as well. They wanted to see Jesus, and they said, okay, he's over there and he's at Matthew's house. And they would have said, okay, let's go over to taxman. And these priests are saying to, or asked his disciples, why is your teacher eating with taxmen and sinners? So here, this priest or these priests seem to be good priests, not having this sex practice with the female goddess. And so we have to understand that still there are good Israeli priests out there, and this is how I'm grouping them as these priests came, because they wouldn't have came to Jesus otherwise. But again, we also have the knowledge here. They asked his disciples. So here, how did they know it was his disciples? Well, it must mean that they were all wearing the same hide and dressed with the same likeness, okay? It's just one way of me being able to make sense of how this group of priests came in, looked around and seen them, and they would have recognized the people that weren't wearing or were as a group, okay? So they had to have some way of acknowledging by their appearance who they were. So, as he reclined at Matthew's house, many taxmen and sinners came to dine with Jesus and his disciples. Now, when it says sinners here, you have to understand that of the 12 commandments, this is those that were against these rules or didn't obey these commandments. This is what the word sinner is about. So the thing here is the priest would have recognized him as this. And it was just only a few priests, and they asked his disciples, Why is your teacher eating with taxmen and sinners? Living the secular life, okay, type of thing. I can see maybe the word sinners might be too strong of a word here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put that as a note for myself that that word might need changed. We'll put question marks right in the middle of it. Okay, that word might get corrected, but right now these are as truthful, just cleaning them up for the first time around. Now we have these verses, and these verses I'll be able to get through here. But when Jesus heard this, so he overheard him, so his disciples were probably sitting near him, okay, or just away from him from where Jesus was at. So this goes to their appearance. So maybe they were sitting as a group behind him, but still it'd have to be, how would they recognize him as his? So much is missing in the text that if you were writing, you would note the difference or how these things were happening. So, but anyways, Jesus is saying here, it is not those who are healthy who need a doctor. I didn't need to use the word physician. We needed to just kind of keep it calm, keep it, not calm, but keep it simple understanding. Doctor, but those who are sick, not those who are healthy who needs a doctor. Oh, yes. No, not those who are healthy who needs a doctor, but those who are sick. So then, now notice here, Jesus is going to use words that he is saying that were written as a prophecy. He said, go and learn what this means. I desire compassionate, it's not sacrifices. The person who put the word sacrifices is using it in a secular manner as pagans would use sacrifice. Like they took their animal and before their creator, they killed it to ask for something. Like I said, the 12 commandments are defined as needing a sin offering to be forgiven. So they are referred to as offerings, not sacrifices. Okay? So need to have the correct word here is there, and not offerings. For I came for the righteous and the sinner. Jesus is supposed to call everyone to him because it is his kingdom, and he is telling them that I am the one now going to allow you in my kingdom. Before, it was they had to live by our Creator's setting up of their atonement to either live within the nation or among the people. Because if they didn't, they were supposed to be killed or removed. But you can see they fell away from that strict practice or the commands our Creator told them. They all of a sudden started overriding his commands. Oh, this doesn't need to be done. We don't need to kill our brother just because he believes on another Creator. I mean, there are so many commands our Creator gave us. Example, if they were drinking and always drinking, they were known as a drunkard. They were a hindrance to society. They didn't really care. They weren't thinking in their right mind all the time. Well, our Creator literally had them killed. Okay, so that was how righteous those people were at that time when they first went into the promised land. That next generation that came up, and I would say the next 2-3 generations was really the ones who were really truthfully obeying our Creator. And then it was all downhill from there. Just kind of like when people are Christians today, they say they're a Christian, but are they doing any of these things? Are they really obeying our Creator's commands? Oh, yeah, I didn't need to call the righteous or sinner. He came for the righteous and sinner. So I don't need the word call. I was just looking over whether I should explain why I'm taking out a few more words or not. Now it comes to the word fast and what fasting is and fasts. And this is, this is these are a few verses that we can get an idea of what is happening in these verses. Okay. And we're going to find out the word fast does not meet what the words are saying. So then the disciples of John came to him. Okay, now, when I say the text is out of order, we already know in Matthew Jesus has been baptized. Okay, but this is where John is sending his disciples to Jesus to find out if he's coming to him to be baptized. So this is because other than that, John's already in prison here, and the disciples of John came to Jesus saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast? Okay, now when I said that, that goes to what happened to John, that John had died. So why do we and the Pharisees fast and your disciples do not fast? And this would be for John, the disciples of John, and they were concerned about him. So they were more or less in mourning, okay? So now we have, this text should have went way above the text when Jesus was told that John had been, well, I don't know. No, that had John isn't killed in this. Well, I can't remember if John has died. The text is saying, implying the word they were in mourning for him, so they're implying that he's dead. And the disciples of John came to him and said, why do we and the Pharisees fast? Well, the Pharisees, we know that they're judges and they wouldn't be fasting for John. These are the non-believers. These are the Jews. So Pharisees can't be used here. So it has to be, why do we mourn for John? And I had to add mourn for John, and your disciples do not mourn for him. And I got see next text on the word fast. Okay, this is going to be about when the groom. So there's more confusion. Yeah, let's just get rid of that for right now. So a fast, you don't hold a fast for, there's no explanation why they would be fasting, okay? That's almost like it's given to you to understand what a fast is, but I can't find text that's truthful. I know you're going to say, well, this is what they say about fast. You better realize that that's not what we're doing here. We're trying to find the truth and reveal the truth. And right now, there is no text that we've got that define the word fast truthfully. So when we got the word fast here, I am trying to say that it can't be the word fast, but it seems that it implies that they're in mourning, which would mean not to be, this mourning would be self-reflection for John and having a sad feeling for him and trying to show respect to John in this way of they would do when they mourn. So if I just put fast, no, disciples do not fast, you got to kind of ask yourself, what fast are they doing? What fast are they asking about? And why would the disciples of Jesus fast when they're only disciples of Jesus now, and they weren't disciples of John? They understood who John was, but why does all of a sudden, because they're disciples now of Jesus, why are they fasting? So all this goes to the fact that the word fast is being used wrong here, and the more correct word is mourning. Okay, if some of you say you disagree with me, and you always disagree with me on here on this word, maybe you're right. But right now, everything to me says more, okay? And they're mourning for John. And we know the order is not correct of everything that's going on in the text here. So, but then Jesus kind of answers them, say, the attendants of the groom cannot mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them. Now, this bridegroom, there's no such thing as a bridegroom. Okay, there just isn't. There is either the groom or there's a bride. Plain and simple. Them adding the word bridegroom, he's not a woman to be a groom. For what? Okay, you guys got to understand, they're tricking you with words. They're deceiving you with words. So let's call a groom and not worry about what's known as whatever they got here as a bridegroom. I don't even want to look up the definition if they've got one for how to describe this, because the groom is the male, the more powerful side of the marriage anyway. They're equal, but the man leads, okay? Or the male leads. The attendants for the groom cannot mourn as long as the groom is with them. So, or it says, can they? Now, I've changed the text a little bit. Do not mourn, okay? Not to that they cannot, but they do not, okay? Jesus answered, the attendants for the, and I've changed the word groom to reflect on as Jesus himself. And this is why I was saying in the text above, they were of John, so they would be mourning for John. And then if they're asking of why they're mourning, they aren't mourning for John. Jesus is replying, because they're my disciples and I am their king, and they do not mourn because I'm not dead, is the way this verse is going to be completely understood here, edited. So Jesus answered that the attendants for the king do not mourn, okay? For their days for mourning will come when I am taken from them, okay? Now, if you notice, the word taken is not, or it is part of the text here, okay, that they had. So I'm using it, and I'm realizing that when I'm starting to use the word mourn, this verse is here, or this verse 15, helps this understanding of the question of the John's disciples. And then they were thinking that, like I was saying, they weren't John's disciples, they just became Jesus' disciples. So you can see now why I'm using the word mourn up here, and then Jesus explaining the difference, because the days for mourning will come when I am taken from them. So like John was taken from them. So I'm pretty sure when you looked at your argument for mourning on the last verse, and I said you might want to disagree with me, now you can't disagree with me the way I'm presenting the word mourning here. So, but you didn't know what the text was going to be, so I understand the argument that you had against me above, but now I don't see that argument there for you. Okay, because Jesus is going to start talking again, a verse here and a verse there is having a meaning. We're done with this group of what mourning is and what these verses go together here. So I'm going to call this video done and then pick up with the next verses here when Jesus is teaching another like meaning or proverb or whatever, but we'll get into that on the next one.